This conference will now be recorded.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Empress of Biz show with the Duke of Business, Sal Acosta. We have an exciting show as usual. I think I'm interviewing my twin sister. So I am so excited because we have Shari Jo Watkins on. And in her introduction, she was describing me as a child. Would have been in the same classroom. You and I would have been really, thrown out. But Shari Jo Watkins is a motivational speaker and an author and a consultant, and she has written a book. I love the title. Welcome, Shari Jo, and happy birthday.
Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here. It's exciting for me. Thanks.
Yeah.
And Shari Jo, real quick, before JoAnn even gets too far into this, because I know people are going to be curious about that and about this, and hopefully even more by the time we're done. But I know your book is brand new as of basically today or yesterday, available on Amazon, both in the electronic Kindle format and in paperback. So do you want to say maybe the keywords or the easiest way for people to find your book on Amazon so they can download it after this interview?
Definitely, quit whining, change your life, do something different. They let you put 7 things, so I've never been accused of being short on words. But quit whining and do something will definitely pull it up, for sure. Thank you.
All right. So the book it's its birthday today too, being introduced.
It is its birthday today, yes.
Yes. So that's great. What motivated you to write the book?
Well, I have all my life, I've had all these things inside me, and I always knew that I needed to get them out. And I've been putting together tidbits along the way for years. And finally, I decided it was just time to share it because I don't believe that I'm given any gifts to keep them to myself. I think that we're supposed to share the things that we have so that other people can either learn from them or not go through the same challenges that we went through. For me, it was a matter of I have to. I needed to get it out there. I needed to be able to force myself to share more. And so this was the first step in doing that.
Is this your first book?
Well, it's actually the second book, but the first book really never made it very far out of publishing. It didn't really go very far. I was working with a company in another country, and it was one of those bad decisions that I made on the first try.
Well,
Let me ask you just real quick the other way. Are there going to be more books after this one now that you've got one in print?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I've actually already been asked to make a teen version of this book because a lot of these things can easily be adapted to helping the youth and teens and people that are just starting out in life that don't feel like they belong or fit in. So the next one is going to be quit whining and do something as a teen. So.
Okay. How long have you been in business and doing what you evidently passionately love?
Yes. Well, technically, I've been coaching and training, I think all my life, but my business itself is official about 2.5 years through Elite Pro Coaching, so as far as being a motivational speaker, I'm still trying to hit that big stage and being able to make a big impact nationally. But overall, I've been an administrator, a healthcare professional for many years, and prior to that, I was in restaurants. So I don't really know when one ends and one begins. Truthfully, it's just a progression that life takes you through, and being where you're supposed to be at the right time, I think.
What's the biggest challenge about owning your business?
Oh gosh, the biggest challenge is it was the hardest challenge for me, and that's being able to recognize that my dream is my dream, and I have to be the person that is willing to go through every step and stay positive no matter what, and recognize that not everybody is going to have that same kind of passion about it that I do. and and really just being able to keep trudging forward when you don't think that you can.
Right, and it's one of the things that happen is that often family, friends, associates go, "You want to do what?" you
Yeah.
know. So, no,
Let
you
me
had a
let me ask you
question.
something real quick, Shari Jo. I know your book has 50 tips, and I know you said you had been sort of taking notes as you went along. So my question is, are these all things that you used in real life, or are these just things that you thought and said, oh, okay, maybe some of them you did, but other ones are just like, hey, this is a good idea? Or are they all things that you actually, again, used, implemented, tried in your real life as you went along?
Every single thing in there has a very direct reflection on something in my life. It probably could have been 900 pages instead of 90, but I needed to make it a quick, short read. Not to say that I am completely successful at following through in all of them all the time, but being able to know that yes, these are all things that I went through, and they're all things that I try to put in my personal life. I like to believe I'm the happiest person alive, although I'm sure it's not always true.
Oh, I love your smile.
Thanks.
And and publishing this book, you said you published another one, and these are 50 great titles. What was the chapter that you just said, "Oh Lord, do I have to write this one?"
Oh, um, decide what's acceptable, and deciding what's acceptable. Some of them kind of have a little bit of overlap, so I had to kind of break them apart. But I know that when, for me, the one that I really, really had the most challenge with was being able to put out there the pain that I came across when I decided this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it no matter what, because I found myself being where I thought I needed to be seen and getting involved in things that everybody said I should be involved in, and it literally hurt me instead of helped me at times, because I really wasn't doing what I set out to do, and having to put that down in writing and recognize the fact that, wow, I really did fall short in a lot of these areas in order to be able to go to the next step and get beyond it. So, some of it was a little bit painful, but, that's the whole point of sharing it, so that you can help other people realize that they're not alone, making those choices.
Hey, Shari Jo, let me ask you a question because I wrote a book myself a while back. I've lost track of time now. And by the way, I will never do it again. So, it was a good experience. I got it out there, but I will never do it again. Um, but in my case, and I see some of that in your case too, it was just because it was this thing that was bottled up inside me that I felt that I just needed to release it because otherwise I would have just exploded. And again, I feel a little bit of that in your case also. So my question is, was that purely the case, or did you also have any sort of forecast or any idea of, okay, I can make this much money by writing this book? And also, now that it's written, are you planning to combine it in any way with your coaching, your motivational speaking, or not? Is it just going to remain a standalone thing for people that want to take advantage of it?
Well, there's a couple of pieces to that, actually, and I would say the first one is that it really was to get it out there. I don't expect that people are going to be able to use this as a model for life, but what I do, I know that I'm a Christian above anything else, and so that means that when I'm given things that I'm supposed to share, I must share them, because it's not, it's just wrong not to. I'm not given anything to keep to myself. I do intend on utilizing them as as a tool to be able to continue coaching others and things like that. But more importantly, as a motivational speaker, I have a little bit of a different thought process. You see, I'm not a national baseball star. I'm not a movie star. I've had my share of tragedies in life, but I don't have that big tragedy that sets me apart, from other people. So I kind of represent a different type of tragedy in the world, and that's a whole nation of people becoming average accidentally on purpose because they don't realize that they don't have to be, and that they don't have to be like other people. So I guess I wanted it to kind of be a giant business card so that I could say, okay, let me help you, and here's proof that I can, and it just kind of all flowed from there. I guess I don't really have this big vision on how much money it's going to make because I honestly don't know. Maybe I'll sell 5 copies, maybe I'll sell 5 million. But regardless, I know that it took me to the next level as a human and as a professional to say, okay, you know what, I've done this, and I know that it's worthwhile to be able to just share those things, and actually have them in writing. Because I could talk your ear off forever, but sometimes people just need to be able to refer back to something.
One of the things that I appreciate is your titles. That's fun. Like I wrote them, So of course they're fun, right? One of the things that you say is trying your face. Now, what exactly do you mean by that?
Oh, okay. So we all have thinking faces, and and I had been told many times in many different venues throughout my life that people were afraid of me until they got to know me, or they thought that perhaps I was mean. And even my husband would ask me, "Why are you angry?" And I'm like, "I'm not. I'm just thinking." So what I found is that people are so fast to make a judgment of you or be afraid to approach you, and I can't help anyone if I'm not approachable. So I had to practice training my face to smile when I was at rest or when I was thinking, so that I didn't look angry all the time, because I have that. I mean, if I'm thinking, I'm like, deep in thought, and that's not very attractive, number one. But it also kind of puts up a wall between anybody that maybe I could help if they were, they needed help and they felt that maybe I was unapproachable. I think it's really important that you be approachable, especially if you have things that you're supposed to share.
Mm-hmm. You're, like I said, I like your title.
Thank you.
The one I get caught into procrastination a little bit, and I've written a couple books, and I've got 2 in the hopper. But one, take advantage of inertia. What do you mean by that?
Oh, well, see, it goes back to, an object in motion stays in motion, and an object at rest stays at rest. And it's very easy to get caught up in doing nothing or simply sitting still too long. I've never been very good at sitting still. Matter of fact, that was usually one of those things I was in trouble for when I was a child, is I could not sit still, and I was easily distracted. So, I find that energy begets more energy. And, so even when I don't feel like going through it, if you get up and you move and, you do some exercise and just keep going, I find that it's kind of like, that cog in the on the paddle boat, where the more it turns, the more energy that it creates.
Right.
And I figure I got plenty of time to rest when I'm dead.
Yeah.
Hey, Shari Jo, let me ask you this question, because I know a little bit earlier you mentioned that you were going to do a version for teens, and
Yes.
and I'm always guilty of when I read a book like yours, I always sort of put on my business glasses and my mindset of having been in business, and working with people, leading organizations, whatever. Did you have a particular target market in mind, or was this just, I mean, I know it's applicable for everybody, but when you were writing it, were you thinking about, I don't know, the single mother, the guy running a small business, or not?
Not really, truthfully. When I mean, I maybe I should have, but I didn't, because I know that there's so many different things that we can get caught up in. Like a lot of it is for young business people to realize that there's there's ways that we have to be approachable. There's ways that there's mistakes that we don't have to make. But people in their, by the time they get to their 30s or, and even into their 40s, so many people feel stuck, and it's so easy to just have so much negativity. And I prefer to be happy, and I prefer positive interaction. So, there's a big part of me that wanted it to be geared more towards kids, but it just didn't kind of come out in writing that way, maybe just because I'm not one anymore. But I really wanted to be able to help young people recognize that the things that are inside them that make them different, that want to come out, that want to be, bubbly and, and just come out, they're not challenges that we should even always be trying to overcome. Sometimes we need to embrace them, because just because somebody says, okay, get in this box, it doesn't mean you have to stay there. I'm a firm believer, instead of thinking outside the box, you think before the box. Because once you get in the box, someone can duct tape it shut, and then you can't get out. So, I guess
yeah, hopefully they put little holes in it.
Right?
Yeah. You hit my point, like, how dare you put me in a box?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I've never been very good at that, truthfully.
Yeah. With I was looking at this. I like this part. A thank you note goes a long, long way, and I think that's so important. And what were you trying to push across there?
Well, there's something to be said about, when I think about my son. He won't answer my phone calls, but he'll answer a text, right? And I don't open my mail, because I don't want to do anything unless I can do it electronically. But I promise you, if I get a card in the mail and it's handwritten, I'm going to open that, because I'm going to know that somebody was thinking about me. There's a lot of different ways that we can do this, but sometimes, especially as a business person, if you're in leadership of any kind, you get so caught up in, I need to talk to so-and-so because, and I need to do this because, oh, and I have to catch up with this person because. So in healthcare, I was a home health administrator for a very long time, and I found myself, only calling people when I needed them to do something. And I needed to change that. So, one day I called up a nurse and I said, hey, Judy, listen, I need to apologize to you. And she said, why? And I said, I haven't thought about you in 2 weeks. I'm sorry. And thank you. It was because I didn't need to, but, at that point I thought, well, you know what, I really need to make sure that somebody has something in front of them that they can remember that they're valued, more than just the things that they do for you for a paycheck, or or for whatever reason. We forget to say thank you, or thank you is an afterthought, or hey, I'm glad that we talked, and oh, by the way, I need you to do this. Oh, by the way, thanks for doing that thing for me. So I think that putting something in writing shows that you spent time thinking about them. It only takes a few minutes to do it, but it matters a lot. People they won't pay attention to a text message after a while. They will forget a phone call. But a thank you card will sit on their desk for a long time and remind them that they have value, to someone, as opposed to just for what they've done.
I like that, because one of the things I do is I love to cook and bake. And besides being a business consultant and dealing with numbers and all that, I really I bake at Christmas time or birthdays, and I just take the food around to give it to everybody. And it's amazing how well that's received.
Yeah, I mean, because it's special. It's something that you did from the heart, it puts a whole different spin on it. You can bring food to my house anytime you want. I don't like to cook.
Okay, well, arrange it.
Well, and by the way, because and I'll say this from again, maybe having worked in some bigger corporations, I think a lot of times the entire system, the entire organization, the entire performance review process is geared around finding mistakes and finding deficiencies and finding gaps in performance. And it's exactly the opposite of everything you're describing. So I think it's very refreshing to strike that balance because, you know, it is true. You have to identify those gaps in performance. That's how you improve. That's how you perfect yourself in your organization. But, you know, sometimes we focus on that 1 or 2% that are, again, the mistakes, the gaps in performance, and we forget to recognize the other 98%, which is people doing a great job day to day.
Right.
So, you know,
I mean,
for whatever it's worth.
like 46% of the people that are looking for jobs as of like last July, I believe it was, 40% of the people that are looking for new jobs are the highest performers within organizations. And usually that's because they don't feel appreciated or they feel stagnated, you know, like they can't go any further. So one of the things that I like to teach leaders is that when you hire somebody, you know, I mean, that first 30 days is absolutely critical. You know, when you've signed off on their paperwork, you need to put a thank you card right there, ready to go to them, because, you know, making sure that they know, hey, I'm of value. We get so caught up in making sure by the time we get somebody on our team, it's, you know, we're already either behind schedule or we're, you know, we're waiting for them to become productive. And then, you know, before you know it, I mean, all leaders mean to do well and they mean to do nice things, but we just get caught up in day-to-day business and all the things that get thrown at us that it becomes an afterthought. So I tell people, you know, plan for it. Make it part of your onboarding process when you're working with a team member, especially, so that it's there waiting for you and ready to send out to somebody.
Yeah. And by the way, let me just throw out maybe a couple of things that from my side that are important for anybody that's listening to. Because by the way, at one point in my career, when I was running a big organization, I made it a point to send out a thank you card to somebody once a week. And I also made it a point to do it not only handwritten, but with a very nice fountain pen that I kept just for that specific purpose. And let me tell you, surprisingly to me, people actually noticed that. People actually noticed not only that it was handwritten, that I had actually used a fountain pen because it writes in a different way from a ballpoint.
Yes.
Or a marker or a Sharpie or something. It gives it a completely different feel. So again, not to get too nerdy, too wonky, whatever, but people that are thinking of doing this and whatever, take the time to buy yourself a nice fountain pen and use it at least for that, because people will notice. The other thing that I did, you just reminded me, when we would onboard people, and of course, like any big organization, we had this big sort of cubicle form. But I made sure that whatever cubicle they were going into was absolutely clean, pristine from the person that had it before. Because let's face it, they'll take their personal things, or, you know, whatever. But there's old paper clips on there. There's dirt. There's dust. There's these things. And sometimes they even think they're doing a favor for the next person, leaving some paper clips behind, whatever the case may be. But I actually tried to do the opposite. You know, take some wipes, make sure it's absolutely clean. So even though you can't give them a new desk or a new chair or whatever, because it may not be in the budget, at least when they show up to their cubicle, it's as clean as it can be, and then they can get a running start from that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree completely. It matters. I mean, it really does. People need to feel needed. They need to feel wanted, you know.
What was the most people that you have managed, the number?
I would say probably about 300 or so at one point in time. Yeah.
So how did you establish personal relationships with 300?
Oh gosh. Well, you know, I'm not your average bear for one. I don't believe that part of believing in inertia, like for me, like I get up early, I do a lot of stuff before other people would arrive so that I could be available. I made a point to one of the pieces of my business now is progressive web apps, and so I make a point to have everybody's information with me all the time, so that if I'm stuck in traffic, I can call somebody and say, listen, I don't need anything. I just was thinking of you and I wanted to say hello. You know, is there anything I can do to help you be more successful? Sometimes it's really only a matter of, you know, picking up the phone and making a call. I did make a point to meet every single person that came on board. I tried my best to be in at least some point of the onboarding process. I believe in setting up the foundation right from the get-go. People cannot meet expectations, and they cannot rise to a level that you expect them to be if you don't demonstrate that first. So, oftentimes it caused me to take work home, or it caused me to go in early, but I always just made a point to force myself into people's lives.
That's great. Writing this book, this was your second book. What was the biggest lesson that you learned between the first and the second?
Oh, it was to not care so much what other people thought of it.
Oh, okay.
Well, let me follow up on that. Because sometimes it's important for spouses and friends to be supportive. Did you have particular individuals that were not supportive or not, and how did you deal with it?
Well, I can tell you that from now to 2 years ago, my circle of people in my life is completely different. When you decide you're going to take on a new venture and a new journey, like when I said I'm going to be, I've been a motivational speaker at heart all my life, but I'm going to make sure that this happens for real. There were people that thought I was nuts, and there was a lot of people that said you can't do this. I was surprised at the people that stuck by my side, and I was hurt by the people that didn't. My husband is a phenomenal man, but he also knows that if you let my brain get bored, I misbehave. And so, it was for him, having his support and his backing was really, really important, for me. But I was going to do it anyway, regardless. So yeah, I mean, I think it was important to me to have the support of some people, but I knew that it had to be inside me. I had to be willing to do whatever it takes to get to that next step, even if that meant that my circle changed a little bit.
And
so in other words, your internal validation had to be strong enough to stand any external difficulties.
Yeah, I don't think I think between the first book and the second book, I grew an awful lot. I learned, I definitely learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes. I actually thought about having a book before this book that was called 106 Reasons Why I Could Have Quit and Didn't, because there's plenty of reasons why you can give up. And there's a lot of fear. But I don't think that it's like that. People talk a lot about the comfort zone, and I have my own little unique way on that. And that is that if you were supposed to stay in your comfort zone, they would have called it the awesome zone, but they didn't. It's going to be uncomfortable. There's people that have literally said to me, "Why do you think that you're more special than anyone else? What makes you think that you have the right to give advice to anybody?" Well, I don't know. I just do. I believe that my experiences have put me to a point where I needed to share with other people. It's not fair to keep things to yourself.
No.
Let me ask you this question, because obviously there's other motivational speakers out there. So, can you mention one or two that have motivated you particularly, and/or one or two that maybe you say, hey, this is a role model that maybe I could pattern myself after without necessarily copying, obviously, what they're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have nothing in common with any of them. So, my first is Les Brown. Les Brown came from absolutely nothing and kept on trudging along when everybody told him that he couldn't. But he was so powerful in his speech, and he wasn't afraid to be bold about it. He wasn't afraid to be energetic when others thought he maybe should be a little bit more quiet. And and he kept saying, "You have greatness within you. You have greatness within you." And I always knew that I did, but I was afraid to let that come out. So I've been sending him an email every week for about 3 years, because one of these days he's going to retire, and he told Mr. Washington that he was the one, but I'm next. So that was my one. This other person is actually Derek Clark. And he is the rapping dad. He had a horrible childhood of child abuse, spent many, many years in foster care, and has turned his entire life around. And his story, you find a lot of people that have been through tragedy, they talk about the tragedy more than overcoming the tragedy. And he is so powerful and so full of energy. I had the privilege of being his host when I worked with the Child Advocacy Center. And so I said, okay, I want to be the one that picks him up. I want to be the one that, that hosts him and takes him out to the meals and everything. And, and he really, helped me be able to recognize that even though I don't have a big tragedy like some people do, what I do have is all kinds of, other tragic things that have happened that gave me a different perspective and the ability to help other people. So that's really been exciting, as well. And then there's, Tony Robbins said one thing. He's not my favorite. I'm sorry, Tony, if you're watching me. One of the things that he said is that if you want to raise your standard, if you want a different standard of living, you have to raise your standards. And, and that was very important to me, to always make sure that I set my standard a little bit higher than anyone else would ever expect it from me. So yeah, those are probably my heroes. Maybe Gary Vaynerchuk. I want him to come to Pittsburgh one of these days and say, hey, Shari Jo, let's have lunch. So.
Yeah. What's the best way to connect with you, Shari?
Well, anybody can call me at any point in time. Of course, they can email me, LinkedIn or Facebook. Do you want me to say those things?
Please.
Okay, so you can call me at 740-275-7737. That is my cell phone, and I don't mind answering it. You can shoot me a message or email me at Shari Jo, which is SHARIJO at EPC360. That's like Elite Pro Coaching 360. So Shari Jo at EPC360.org. And then, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook and all those happy places, too.
Now, to buy your book,
yes.
How does one do that?
Well, I will actually have the paper copies in hand today. Yeah, I know. When I get home, they should be on my doorstep. That's exciting. But you can go to Amazon and buy both the Kindle version or the paperback version there. The Kindle version is $4.95 and the paperback is $9.95. My goal is to be able to raise enough money as quickly as possible so that I can give away 5,000 copies of the Quit Whining and Do Something for Teens within the next 6 months. So I've kind of put a little bit of a deadline on myself to be able to do that, because I want to be able to give that book away.
Sal, do you have any last questions or anything before I start to wrap up?
Yeah, can I ask you a question as well? You're called the Empress of Biz. How did you get that name?
I had a client who is now passed. He was a fiery, passionate Italian. Part of me is Italian. And with the red hair, it's we would get into fights over his financials. And he kept on insisting he was going to do certain things. And I kept on telling him he couldn't. And so one day he's yelling, well, who do you think you are? The Empress of Biz. And I looked at him and I went, yes. And oh God, I've created a monster. That was how I got my title from Bartuga. And it stuck. It seems to. I
like it. It's exciting.
And see, by the way, I think one of the learnings is in business, some things happen just serendipitously, but you have to keep an open mind to see them and identify them and leverage them. JoAnn could have just kind of ignored that and let it go. And on the other hand, it became her, I'm going to screw up the French here, but the nom de guerre, right? Did I do that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it works. I mean, and no one said you aren't. So I just claim the title.
Right? Sometimes you just have to. I tell people all the time, I'm like Mary Poppins, practically perfect in every way. And I know it's not true, but it always gets a smile,
Yeah.
So, all right. And then if I could say one more thing, Sal, I wanted to thank you so much, A, for, inviting me to come to your networking meetings, and then B, giving me this opportunity to be here with the two of you. I'm thrilled. It's going to expand my circle even more, and I can't wait to see you in a couple more weeks again.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let me just mention this for anybody that's listening. We actually meet for lunch once a month on the second Monday of every month at Cannon's Chop House in Cannonsburg. We limit the activity to 10 people on purpose so we can have, we all get around the table and have a single conversation. So if anybody would like to join us for those lunches, feel free to call me or email me, and I will send you the link so you can start participating. Because not only do we share leads and resources and bounce ideas off of each other, but nice activities like this come out of that. So be delighted for anybody else that wants to join us.
Yeah, I'm glad I did. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to meeting you. I want to, as we do wrap up, tell people to, Shari, you would love this. March 21st, we're having the Pennsylvania Women's Hall of Achievement. I'm president. We're having a day of recognizing women and the Women's League of Voters. It's our 100th year of in existence, and we're recognizing them at the Lamont restaurant in Mount Washington. And you would please come. You would meet some great women. I will put you on my mailing list.
Please do. I will come. March 21st, you said, right?
Yes, and it's lunch at the Lamont.
Okay.
Let's end up with our New Year wishes for everyone. Sal, what's your New Year's wish?
For everybody to be wildly successful in 2020 and achieve all their not only business but also personal goals, because you should have both. So my wish is for everybody to be successful and achieve both business and personal goals.
Shari?
You know what? I'm wishing everyone 2020 vision, literally, to be able to see clearly what's ahead of them, and to be able to embrace their own vision and finally take action toward it. The vision is nothing more than a dream without action. It'll just fade away eventually. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I wish vision and clarity for people.
Sal, what's
the best?
Oh, okay. My wish is, because I've gone through some tremendous health challenges this year and have survived, that everyone appreciates what good health means, and that they take care of themselves, and that they really treat their body and their mind and their soul with care and respect.
Nice.
Sal, how can people get a hold of you?
Very easy. They can call me on my personal cell phone anytime, because this is truly what I enjoy, and this is my passion. So a phone call never bothers me. Quite the contrary. I enjoy it very much. 484-358-9470. Again, 484-358-9470. If you want to email me, same thing. My personal email, it's sal459@yahoo.com. sal459@yahoo.com.
Shari, again, how can one get a hold of you?
Through my cell phone, 740-275-7737, or via email, of course, at sharijo@epc360.org, and that's sharijo@epc360.org.
And people can get a hold of me, the Empress of Biz, at 412-440-6969. That's the office landline. And I also have a cell, 412-670-4322. The email is empressofbiz@gmail.com. That's empressofbiz@gmail.com. And we have a Facebook page where please feel free to, the Empress of Biz, Listen, Learn, Prosper. Feel feel free to post a tip and put an advertisement there, Shari. No problem.
Okay, thank you.
So the Empress of Biz, Listen, Learn, Prosper on Facebook. So, I want to thank both of you for taking the time. And Sal, thank you for setting things up and carrying
Thank
through
you.
the technical. Because we know
Thank you, Joe, for being our guest, by the way. Thank you, Shari.
This is believe me, it's a joy for me. Thank you.
I can't wait to see a picture of you holding up your book.
I know, me too. I wish I had it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great. So we want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, prosperous, and joyous 2020. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.